The second half starts today, and the Rangers are a little ways out of making a playoff spot. On today's show, I'm breaking down the 6 things they need to do in the second half to make sure they secure their spot in the postseason.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, before we get into today's episode, this episode of Locked On Rangers is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today. Now, the second half starts today. The Rangers start a 3-game series against the Baltimore Orioles, and this is an absolutely crucial series, a crucial stretch. The Rangers have 13 games in 13 days before the deadline, and every single one of these games from now until the end of the season, the chase is on. And it's been on basically since the start of July. There have been must-win games for the better part of 3 weeks now, and the Rangers dug themselves in a big hole. This is, though, about where they expected to be heading into the season, coming off of that World Series championship. They had 3 pitchers that were on the IL for the start of the season that were supposed to be big parts of this rotation. And the mantra of the season was, okay, just hang on till those big boys come back. Hopefully you can slug your way into, maintaining relevance or staying around 500 until the break, get those guys back, and then go on a crazy run the final 2 months of the season. Kind of the opposite of what happened last year. And this team has kind of done that, but not in the way that they expected. The starting rotation, the bullpen have been so much better than anybody anticipated, and the offense has been so much worse. So let's look at the 6 things that the Rangers need to do to make the postseason this year. Right now, by the way, just for your frame of reference, the Rangers are 5 games out in the AL West. They're 4 games behind the Astros for second place, and they are 7.5 back in the wild card race. Now, the number one thing the Rangers need to do to make a playoff spot this year is avoid being sellers at the deadline. Like I said, there are 13 games in 13 days from now until that trade deadline at the end of July. The Rangers have 3 games against the Orioles, 4 games against the White Sox, so 7 straight at home. Then you go to 3 in Canada against the Blue Jays, who are very mediocre to bad this year. And then you go to 3 games in St. Louis. And that's it. That's all that stands between you and the trade deadline. And the Rangers need to win all of these series. If they don't win all of them, then they cannot get swept in any of them. And they probably need to sweep at least one. Probably. But if you sweep one, if you go 10-3 over the next 13 games, that leaves your record at 56-53 at the trade deadline. That's a pretty darn good spot to be in. Even if you go just 10-4 or 9-4, it gets you to 55-54. A winning record at the trade deadline. I don't think this team will be sellers if they are with a winning record, unless they go 9-4 and then the Astros go undefeated from now until the trade deadline, and the Mariners also go undefeated from now until the trade deadline, and everyone above them in the wildcard picture also goes on some crazy run. Unless the Rangers are 8 or 10 games out, I just don't see them being sellers. Chris Young wants to be buyers at the trade deadline, but you have got to win every series. Treat every game as if it's must win. Give every single thing that they've got, because if you're sellers at the trade deadline, well, there's not enough reinforcements on this team to, ship off Kirby Yates and David Robertson and Nate Eovaldi and Max Scherzer and Michael Lorenz and everybody and still make a push. That's just not going to happen. That's just not how this works. So to get there, That is the first thing. That is the most important thing, is you've got to win right the heck now. Maybe the Rangers will be buyers at the trade deadline. I think just avoiding being sellers at the deadline is the goal, because there's a lot of talent on this team that's just badly underperforming. Like Nathaniel Lowe, like Adolis Garcia, Jonah Heim offensively, those are the big three that I think really need to start to pull it together. I mean, Marcus Semien included. I mean, that I feel like is a given. I think Semien will pull out of it. He has been a consummate professional. He has been incredibly consistent. I'm the least worried about Marcus Semien turning his offense around than I am of those other three in Adolis, Jonah, and Nathaniel Lowe. It's not on any one of them to just go nuclear for the second half. I would like for all three of them, all four of those guys actually, to go nuclear in the second half, but they at least need to be, up to their career averages. That's all the Rangers need them to be. They don't need to be, ALCS MVP Adolis Garcia. They don't even need second half 2022 Nathaniel Lowe. They just need decent versions of themselves so the Rangers don't have to, sell off and just punt the season of being the defending World Series champs. They do not want to do that at all. They want to win consistently, year in, year out. It's difficult. The Rangers definitely have the talent to do so. Number two thing the Rangers need to do to make the playoffs this year is just get Josh Jung back. Heck, get everybody back. Get healthy. The mantra of this whole season, just get healthy. Josh Jung would be an incredible bat to have back in this lineup as soon as possible. They have struggled mightily, this Rangers team, against left-handed pitchers. They have been getting a little bit better, but having Josh Jung in there, who last year was one of the best lefty mashers in the game, that's huge. He was absolutely on fire for his first 4 games of the season, and I really thought this was going to be a breakout year for Josh Jung. And, well, unfortunately, it was just a broken wrist year that has taken more than half of the season. He is about 3 weeks behind schedule. He was supposed to be back a long time ago, and he is just fighting his hardest. It's not anything with Josh Jung. It's just stupid Phil Maton and his stupid fastball to the wrist. Oh, gosh. Man, what an impact that has had on this season. I mean, incredible that one pitch can really just completely turn around your season. But it's not just Josh Jung the Rangers need to get back. They need Evan Carter back and healthy and performing like Evan Carter can do. They also need Dane Dunning back, which I think he will be the first one back of these guys on the IL. He rehabbed in Frisco. I believe that was on Sunday. But the Rangers are hoping that he will be back and giving them some depth in their pen as well. They need Cody Bradford back. They need Tyler Mahle here for the first time. He's not back if he hasn't pitched for your team just yet. They also, of course, need Jacob freaking deGrom back. The sooner the better, but the healthier the better with deGrom. The initial timeline was sometime in August. I have no idea when exactly that will be if he does come back this season. I'm hoping that the Rangers are good enough to where it makes it to a point, there is actually a point in him coming back this season. That's the goal. First off, you again have to avoid being sellers at the deadline. But I think Mahle hopefully will be back maybe by the end of this month. I know that was the initial goal, at least by early August. That is my hope. We'll see what all of that looks like. The Rangers have some starters that I think could very quickly be shoved into the pen if Mahle is back. And Cody Bradford, I think, gives this team, another great lefty in the pen. I kind of wish that he had, obviously, I wish that he was healthy the entire season so we could have seen if that stretch that he had the first 3 starts of the season, if that's just the new Cody Bradford, or if that was just a really good 3 stretch start for him, because he looked absolutely phenomenal. And missing him for the vast majority of the season, I think it's hurt a lot more than people have really thought about, because it's been so long since Bradford pitched. But getting those reinforcements back, I think especially Jung and especially Evan Carter, if they are back and look like the versions of themselves that we know that they can be, that gives depth in this lineup. And if guys are underperforming, you got options. You got options to replace them of guys who are actually good, as opposed to just, okay, well, I guess we'll we'll try and see if Davis Wenzel can catch a hot streak, or if Derek Hill can catch a hot streak, or heck, if Robbie Grossman can catch a hot streak. That's not ideal. Having Travis Jankowski be the DH every day, as much as I love Janko, it's not ideal. Having that DH be Josh Smith or Josh Jung or Adolis Garcia with Evan Carter in right field, that's more ideal. So this Rangers team just needs to get healthy and hopefully stay healthy as well. Coming up, we're going to look at some other reasons why other things that the Rangers need to do to make a playoff chase, including figuring out if this is just the new Adolis Garcia or if they need to make a big swing at the trade deadline. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked On Rangers is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you've always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we're even talking about your rival cities. With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city. The Rangers have a really, really nice road trip coming up in just a few weeks. They're going to Yankee Stadium and Fenway. If you wanted to make that stay up to the Northeast, go check out all they've got on Booking.com. Or if you're wanting to go to another major U.S. city like Chicago, the Rangers play at the White Sox at the end of August, and I'm sure you will see some Rangers wins if you go up there to Chicago. Also a very, very lovely city. So go check it out, because the right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com on the site or on the Booking.com app. This show is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active users. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. If you're looking for promotions, PrizePicks has got you covered every week, from blowing select players' stat projections on Tuesdays to help your lineup hit, or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Now, the number 3 thing the Rangers need to do if they're going to make the playoffs this year is figure out if this is just who Adolis Garcia is now. This has been a prolonged, just terrible stretch for Adolis Garcia. In the month of April and March, he absolutely lit the world on fire. He was the Rangers' best player, by far, a .932 OPS, hitting nearly 300 for the month, 8 home runs, 7 doubles. The dude was absolutely on fire. Then the calendar turned to May. Then he had that collision with Marcus Semien, and ever since then, he has been pretty brutal to watch. It has been very much home run or nothing. And it has been just a terrible stretch for Adolis Garcia. But I feel like the vitriol and the hate of Adolis Garcia, it's gone a little bit far. I mean, remember last year in October when he was the best hitter on the planet against the Houston Astros? Just absolutely lit them up in one of my favorite playoff series of all time, and also hit the greatest walk-off home run in this franchise's history? I mean, it wasn't that long ago. This guy is not that old. He's not just washed. He's not just cooked. He's 31 years old. He's still hitting the ball as hard as ever. His average exit velo is the top 15% of baseball. Barrel rate, hard hit rate, all of those in the top 17% of baseball. He is hitting the crap out of the baseball, but he is not having the best at-bats. He is not having those great swing decisions that he had last year. A swing and miss is always going to be a part of Adolis Garcia's game, but the walk rate is around league average. It's not that far below it, but the swing and miss has just been so much worse than last year. And the Rangers need to figure out if this is who he is. Then the Rangers are going to need to make a decision and either get Evan Carter as the everyday right fielder, and, give Adolis Garcia some more time off. Maybe he needs some time on the IL. I don't know exactly what it is. I'm hoping that home run derby can get him going just a little bit. his performance was pretty good, at least in the first round before the bonus round. Still, I think that this is an important part of this Rangers lineup. Even Jonah Heim and Nathaniel Lowe have shown some bits and pieces of figuring things out. Lowe, not as much so as Jonah, at least as of late. Jonah in the month of July has a 776 OPS, which is 100 points higher than his highest OPS in literally any other month. So hopefully Jonah Heim is kind of turning a corner. Low, the on base is always going to be there, so the floor is there. You'd like to see a little bit more slug from Nathaniel Lowe. He's got 2 home runs this month, which is the most he's had in any month. He's only played 12 games in this month so far. But the Rangers need all 3 of these guys to either turn it on, or the Rangers need to make a move at the deadline. I don't know exactly who for. For those clamoring for Randy Arozarena, you clearly have not watched what Randy Arozarena has done this year. By the way, Randy is making $8 million in arbitration this year, and he's got 2 more arbitration seasons left. Right now, he has a lower OPS than Adolis Garcia on the season. Just in case you forgot about that. He had a 461 OPS in April. But he had a pretty great June, but July he has kind of fallen back down to earth, and he doesn't have that offensive ceiling that Adolis Garcia has. And so I don't think that's the move. I don't know if a trade for Pete Alonso is the move, or what have you, or any of those other Rays guys. I think Paredes is on the trading block. Maybe Yandy Diaz is on the trading block. I don't know exactly if that's the answer. The Rangers would have to give up a lot for any of these guys. And again, they're long-term outfield. You've got Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford as 2 long-term outfielders. You got 2 more seasons on Adolis, and you've got 2 more seasons at least of Leody Taveras. I think 3, maybe 3 more seasons of Leody Taveras under contract. I think making a move like that is kind of a signal of, we don't believe in these guys, and I don't think the Rangers necessarily want to give off that signal just yet. The number 4 thing the Rangers need to do to make a playoff spot this year is get an absolutely nuclear streak from Corey Seager. I mean, we've seen him go on these kinds of tears before. We saw him go on an absolute tear last year, kind of keep this offense afloat single-handedly with his absolute bonanza in August of last year. We're at an 11 OPS in that month, 10 home runs. In July, he had an 11.29 OPS for the month. Heck, the full season, he had just a crazy high OPS last year, 1,013 OPS last year, and the Rangers have seen him go on some streaks this year. I mean, they saw him, go on a tear and get himself into the All-Star game. In May, he had an OPS over 1,000. So far in July, he's got an OPS over 1,000, hitting the 3.46 slash line. Wasn't quite doing that in May, but he has been on a tear in these 11 games, 3 home runs in this month of July so far. The Rangers need him to continue that and just keep this offense afloat. You can't have just one guy carry your lineup, but when that one guy is Corey Seager, I mean, he kind of can. He has been very hit and miss. I mean, the month of April and March, he had a 631 OPS. He was still coming back from that injury, really wasn't quite right. Then in May, he had the OPS over 1,000, but back in June, he slumped yet again. Only 2 home runs in 20 games in that month, an OPS of 709. Not ideal from the guy who is supposed to be carrying this lineup, who is one of the best hitters on the planet. The Rangers need him to hit like that and do so consistently, because the Rangers cannot afford even a down couple of games from Corey Seager, especially over the next couple of weeks. Maybe later on, after the trade deadline, if they've made it past and aren't sellers, they can afford a bad week from Seager, but right now, they need nuclear Corey Seager, and I'm really thinking that he just might be able to give that to them. Coming up, we'll talk about the final 2 things that the Rangers need to do to make the playoffs this year, and if they can actually do all these things. Right after this word from our sponsors. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, h-vac, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, h-vac, and electrical supplies from anywhere in just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. The second half of baseball is finally here, and this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. If you're thinking about the Rangers making the playoffs and you're thinking this show is getting to me, I think the Rangers can do all these things. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to win the AL West. Right now on FanDuel, they are plus 800, these Texas Rangers, to win the AL West. That is behind the Mariners, who are the favorites, at minus 110, and the Astros, who are second favorite, at plus 110. Or if you're thinking, I don't know about winning the division, but I think they're going to sneak in to a wild card spot, the Rangers right now are plus 410 to make the playoffs in general on FanDuel. So go head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Now, the number 5 thing the Rangers need to do to make the playoffs is they need their first half MVP to play like this yet again, and Josh Smith. They really just need him to keep hitting, keep performing like this. He has been the best player on the Rangers so far this season, bar none. There is no qualifiers. There is no in this situation because he has been their best player. He should have been an all-star. I'm glad that he got to go spend some time on the beach with his wife, just rest and recover, as opposed to going to the all-star game and not getting as much time to rest. He knows he deserved to be an all-star. The Rangers know he deserved to be an all-star. The league office is full of morons because they picked someone else over him, anyone else over him, but it's fine. He has been absolutely fantastic. He has been the best hitter on the Rangers this season. 90 games so far this season for him, an 861 OPS, hitting just below 300, on base just below 400, and he is slugging 469. 10 home runs for him, more than he's ever had in his career, by far. He had 6 home runs last year in 90 games, 2 home runs the year before that in 73 games. So he's doubled his career high in home run, or double his career numbers in home runs this year. Just absolutely crushing it. And when Josh Jung comes back, I have no doubt that Josh Jung is going to be the everyday third baseman, but Josh Smith's going to play somewhere every day. He is too darn good not to. I'm thinking that's probably DH. I'm thinking going to play a little bit of that Michael Young 2011 kind of role of, playing DH and super utility, subbing in at shortstop or third base or second or first, wherever the Rangers need him on a given day, because his bat is just too darn good. And this could be a case like Ezekiel Duran last year, where a guy absolutely goes off in a huge way in the first half and then kind of falls back down to earth in the second half. I don't think so. I think Josh Smith is about this good of a hitter. Now, I don't know if he's going to have an 861 OPS for the rest of the season and end up with around 20 home runs. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think he's good. The expected numbers, some of those advanced numbers, don't paint him in the prettiest light. Expected batting average is 240, about 50 points, a little bit more than 50 points below what he's doing right now. Expected slugging is more than 100 points below what he's doing right now. Average exit velocity, bottom 20% of baseball. Barrel rate, bottom 10% of baseball. Bat speed's not great, but he's squaring balls up. He's not chasing. He's not striking out. He's walking at decent rates. He is getting the absolute most out of every single inch of his baseball talent, and I think he's going to continue to do so. The swing changes he's made are legit. He is hitting righties. He's hitting lefties. He's hitting in all kinds of situations well. He's putting together great plate appearances. He has just been a darn good hitter, and the only kind of pitch he isn't absolutely crushing this year is off speed. He has been an absolute monster so far this season, and the Rangers have needed every single bit of his offensive excellence and occasionally his defensive excellence as well. I think the ideal lineup the Rangers have against lefties, he'd still be hitting and DHing, batting fifth. I think my ideal lineup would have, it looked pretty similar to what it looks like now, except Josh Jung would probably be hitting third against lefties. And against righties, I think that, you're going to have Josh Smith in there at DH. You're going to have Langford in left. You're probably going to have Adolis at right. And I think Evan Carter in center field. What that means for Leody Taveras, not entirely sure. But again, they've got to get Jung back. They got to get Evan Carter back. Don't know exactly the timeline for when those guys are going to be back. Hopefully, in the near future. I think Jung is probably going to be back a little bit before Carter. But the Rangers need every single bit of baseball excellence that Josh Smith has been doing over the first half. They need that in the second half as well if they're going to have a hope of the playoffs. And the number 6 thing the Rangers need to do to make the playoffs this year is they need to keep pitching like this. They cannot have a fall off from their starters, from the rotation. They have pitched exceptionally well this season. I mean, their starting rotation, everybody in the rotation outside of John Gray has an ERA plus above league average. John Gray is only just barely below league average at 99 ERA plus. But everybody else, Nathan Eovaldi, 133 ERA plus, Michael Lorenzen, 112, Andrew Heaney, 104, Max Scherzer, 135. This rotation is solid. Now, how Michael Lorenzen and John Gray hold up over the rest of the season, I'm not entirely sure. John Gray's last 4 or 5 starts have been really, really rough. The Rangers could really use Tyler Mahle in this rotation. Michael Lorenzen, I think, has gotten pretty darn lucky with the amount of walks and hits that he's been able to work around. But he's been maintaining it. The strikeout numbers for him are not great. For Gray, they have been trending down. They were great for the month of May, a little bit in June, but July has been truly terrible for John Gray. The Rangers need him to get back to May Gray version of himself or just a mediocre version of himself. They don't need him to have a 2.12 ERA for the second half. He probably will end up in the bullpen anyway. I thought it was going to be more likely for Andrew Heaney to be the one in the pen if the Rangers get their rotation fully healthy and you have Nate Eovaldi and then Max Scherzer and then I thought John Gray as the number 5 after deGrom and Mahle are in there. But right now it's looking like Lorenzen and Gray might be the first one. If he keeps having starts like this, they are really going to be in trouble. But they also need the bullpen to hold up as well. This bullpen has been incredibly good. I know their bullpen ERA is a little bit misleading if you look at the overall season numbers, but that's mostly inflated by guys that aren't on this roster anymore. Inflated by guys like Cole Winn, like Grant Anderson, a little bit by Sean Anderson, Austin Pruitt, just not guys who are there right now. Right now you have Kirby Yates, who's maybe the best closer in all of baseball. You've also got David Robertson, who's been fantastic. Jacob Latz, so much better than you expected. You've also got Jose Leclerc and Josh Sborz there. And then once he gets off the IL, your long guys will be Jose Urena and Dane Dunning. That is a really, really solid pen. And oh, by the way, Cody Bradford is also going to be in that pen. That's a really, really solid pen, and the Rangers need them to keep doing what they're doing. They cannot have a fall off from guys in the back end of the pen. Thankfully, if one of them does, they've got some depth options there. I mean, even Jonathan Hernandez has been pretty darn solid this season. He's definitely still struggled with those walks, but it's been better as of late. He's still got that crazy nasty stuff. He's definitely not one of your top 3 or 4 high leverage guys, but if everybody's been used quite a bit and you got to throw Jonathan Hernandez out there for a couple innings, he's going to give you a solid couple innings most times out. He's going to be able to eat you some outs. He's going to be able to eat some innings if the Rangers need that from him. And so the depth of this pen needs to keep being deep. It needs to keep being darn good. And when Mahle comes back, if you throw John Gray in there as another back-end option, because we've seen how great John Gray can be when he's just airing it all out in relief. We saw it in the World Series. We've seen it in small stretches this year. And that is a dangerous, dangerous weapon to have out there in the back of your pen if you are getting Mahle back, if you are getting deGrom back, which It's more of an if with deGrom, less of an if, I think, with Mahle, or a matter of when with Tyler Mahle. But the Rangers need that now, and they need these guys to keep stepping up. They need Nathan Eovaldi to keep being dominant. They need Lorenzen to keep working his way out of danger. They need Andrew Heaney to keep being the Andrew Heaney he's been for the last month, because he's been incredible. And same with Max Scherzer. He has been exceptional since he stepped off the IL. He has been downright exceptional, and the Rangers have needed every single bit of Max Scherzer's greatness. And folks are sleeping on him because he's 40. Or he's about to turn 40 in about a week or so. By the end of this month, he will be 40 years old, and he is still a darn good pitcher because he's Max freaking Scherzer, one of the best pitchers of this generation. I don't know how people keep forgetting that, but this rotation needs to hold up. The offense obviously needs to step up, but if the offense, turns it on and the rotation and the bullpen start falling apart, then you're not going to be winning games enough to the point where you're going to be sellers at the deadline. Every single part of this team needs to step up and be dominant in order to make the playoffs. Now, do I think all 6 of these things will happen? I'm hoping so. I'm thinking so. The Rangers don't need all 6 of these. If all 6 of these things happen, by figuring it out with Adolis Garcia, I'm hoping that Adolis Garcia actually figures it out. If the Rangers get fully healthy, get everyone back about when they're expecting them to be, if Jung comes back within the first week or so after the deadline, that's massive. If Evan Carter can come back within a week of that, that's also massive. If Adolis Garcia can turn it around, if Nathaniel Lowe's good 3-week stretch can turn into a good second half, if Heim's good month of July can turn into a decent second half, if you can get that nuclear month from Seager, if Wyatt Langford continues what he's been doing since he got back off the IL, this is a playoff team. This should be a playoff team. This is the team that has all the talent in the world to make the playoffs in a division that is there for the taking. The Mariners' offense has been even more cheeks than this offense. They've been terrible. Even Julio Rodriguez has been bad for his standards this year. I mean, all the guys who they thought they were bringing in to fix their offense have not worked. The Astros are still dealing with an extraordinary amount of pitching injuries. Their lineup is starting to figure it out, for sure. And they're going to get Kyle Tucker back soon. And they have been basically the best team in baseball since the calendar turned to June, maybe even a couple weeks before that. But they're a gettable team, as are the teams ahead of them in the playoff chase. I mean, right now you're staring down teams in the wild card like Boston, like the Twins, like the Royals. Heck, you're also staring down the Rays, who are ahead of you, which I don't think they will be for much longer. But you're also staring down somehow the Detroit Tigers, who are half a game ahead of you. This is a team that has got all the talent in the world and the experience as well. This is going to be the exact inverse of last year. If this team goes on a run and makes the playoffs on the final day of the season, it will not be because they were holding on for dear life. It was because they clawed themselves back with an absolutely torrid stretch heading into the playoffs. And we've seen what this team can do. This exact same team can do if they just get into the dance. And if they just get into the dance, and they also have a top 3 in the rotation of Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, and Max Scherzer, back-to-back is by no means a stretch. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.